Wow. Hello.
Whoa, big microphone.
I know, right? And on top of that, what's going on
Why
with
are
our
you so
pictures?
tiny?
Yeah, I don't understand what's
Oh,
happening.
there we go.
Oh, look, there we go. That's better. Happy Monday. How are you?
Happy Monday. I'm good.
Yay, yay. Did you get any fun stuff done over the holiday weekend?
I mean, got the garage like three-quarter organized.
Nice. That's
Had nothing to
big.
do with it
That's
being the holiday, but finally got done.
I love it. Long holidays, I usually get stuff done that's been on my list for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's that extra time, right? That I can do that. So this weekend I had a nice surprise. My husband is home. I did not
Mm.
expect that. So that is very nice. I'm very happy about that. I'm sad. This morning we had a very unexpected death in the family.
Hmm.
Literally celebrating retirement, went home
Oh my God.
and passed away. Like, yeah, in her 60s. Like I'm
Oh.
very, very so yeah, we're gonna be traveling today. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a rough one. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of yeah, those moments in life that, are unexpected and pull up lots of emotions, right? So I know you I feel like it was recently, but it's probably been a while now. Your was it your father-in-law?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
very
Actually,
unexpected.
we're
Yeah.
coming up on a year next week.
I I knew it wasn't very long ago. Okay, so I'll be
Yeah.
thinking about you guys too. All right, so how about this? How about we get into our quote today, Kayla? Why don't you go ahead and kick us off with that?
Absolutely. So today's quote comes to us from Oscar Wilde, who I think is a well known author. Am I right?
I
Do
think
we know?
so. I don't
Okay.
know. I didn't look him up.
Somewhere
Half
I
the time
need
I
to
don't
build
look
this
him up,
into
right?
I know. It's one of those things I don't think about it
Yes.
until like literally I'm going to read it. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
should know who that is.
Right. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Yes, you are correct. He's an author, poet, and playwright.
Okay,
Boom.
all
There you
right.
go.
So Oscar
Nice job,
Wilde
Kayla.
says, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken." Which
Mm.
now knowing he's a playwright is kind of funny because you're literally making characters for people.
Pretend that they're being characters.
Yeah, yeah.
I know, right? That is kind of dichotomy. That's interesting. Although,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I don't know, but I like the quote. I think it's um honestly, I think for me, this is one of the things that I feel I've leaned into when it comes to my work. I think I
Mhm.
struggle a little bit with it personally sometimes, but maybe not. I don't know. Um, but for sure with my work, I feel like it's one of the things that I saw a YouTube video. I'm a little bit disjointed here, but I saw a YouTube video. I don't know at what point I saw it, but it was this company, it was this new company, and they were these young kids, like in their 20s, early 30s, and they were starting this company. I don't even remember what the company was about, but do you know what I remember about it? They
Hmm.
used vulgarity in all of their marketing, and like on their website it was like, we don't
Okay.
give an f, we don't like all of these things. I know, right? I know, but here's why I remembered the story, because you know what they said? They said, this is who we are, this is how we talk, this is how we act, this is how we do things. We want our clients to know that up front,
Mhm.
because if they're uncomfortable with that, then they're not probably going to like working with
Mhm.
us.
Yeah.
And that was so um that struck such a chord with me about being my authentic self, especially when it comes to my
Unapologetically.
that's right. Yes,
Mhm.
because I am who I am. We are who we are. And the world, people who are drawn to us will be drawn to us for that very reason.
Mhm.
That very, very reason. And if we're trying to hide who we are, or to be somebody else, or act like somebody else, then we're missing out on the community of people who are designed
Mm-hmm.
to be with us, right? It's
And not only
so
that, like if you're tempering yourself to not piss people off, I guess, then you're going to be keeping people in your orbit who really aren't in line with who you are at the same time that you're feeling out of line
right.
yourself.
Right. It just puts everything out of range.
Who really are in line with you aren't close enough because you haven't let them in.
Right, right, which is so, and it can be counterintuitive, I think. I think we're conditioned. I think we're
Mm-hmm.
conditioned to, you know, I know you and I have talked about this a lot about as our childhood be children are meant to be seen, not heard, and like all of these things, right? And my head's getting cut off here. I've got heels on today because we I know. So, but we're conditioned to, like you said, temper ourselves, put things, hold ourselves back a little bit because, oh, how will that be perceived, and how will
Mm-hmm.
that
Well, and how many
look?
times have we been told that we're like too extra or loud
Huh?
or what? Right. Like
Yes,
the
yes,
message to be less of you so that you don't upset everybody else. I think
yeah,
everybody has heard that message at some point.
right. And and therefore, this statement, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken," on the is so can feel counterintuitive, although I don't think it's really counterintuitive. I think it's more intuitive,
Mm-hmm.
but because of our conditioning we feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
counter, right?
Mm-hmm.
um and
The conditioning
showing
can
up.
make it feel unsafe.
Yes, yes, when in reality, like we said, it's really more safe. It because it naturally repels people that are not meant for us, naturally brings people who are meant for us closer. Um, we should be teaching our children this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
I
we
want
get
to
a
just
full
take
house
a
today.
minute though to kind of, I feel like this is one of those quotes that literally is just scratching the surface or like
Oh,
is
yeah.
easier said than done. And it doesn't have like the support structure baked in behind it. Because I would say that, yeah, this is one of those things that you can look at and you're like, that's great. But then oftentimes, like when you go to, you're actually faced with those decisions,
Yeah.
that one line sentiment isn't that like it doesn't translate practically. um I'm curious to what's in your notes about this because I think that this topic is one where we have a different set of challenges and struggles around, because for me this one's baked into my operating system.
Mhm.
And I've always been a little less attuned to the needs and constraints of others in that arena.
Yeah. And I hear you, and I love that about you and about so many of the people that are in my world. As I find myself growing in this area, literally growing real time. You're seeing it, you're watching it. I can't help but go back to last week's launch of the 7 core convictions of independent advocacy and really kind of start there because this launch of these, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, where's the link? Shoot, that was supposed to have a link attached to it. So let me grab that really quickly. Um, so that if you don't know what I'm talking about, or you haven't, in case you missed it, right?
Yeah, but
Um,
while you find that, that was a oh well there it is. Well, but yeah, that was a great seeing this in real time for you and for me watching you go through that, because I know it's, it's something we've talked about for long before this was announced to the world. And I feel like I I pushed you and poked you
yes,
many times on it.
you have, and
And
yeah,
no, give
I
your
think you
take
have.
because I'm just watching
Yeah,
it, but
I
I'd
was,
love to hear it from you.
yeah. Yeah, so and Kayla's right. Kayla has been like cheering me on for a long time in regards to these core convictions. Um, and for me, it literally is a growth moment that you're seeing real time where I'm saying I'm a little bit afraid about what this might look like and what people might think and what the perception of me might be. And at the same time, these literally are the 7 core beliefs that have been driving my business for the last 6 years. And because I believe them so deeply, which is why we call them convictions, because that's really how deep they lie in my soul around the work that we do. And um, be yourself, everyone else has already taken is just high level surface, easy to say. But when it comes right down to taking the action and exposing what that is, for me, it felt like I was literally like ripping my chest open, pulling things wide open and going, here I am. And if you need to like take a jab, then that's what you're going to have to do, because this is who I am. And it literally, the blog post, I said at one point, and I'm putting a stake in a flag in the sand. I'm taking a stand on this. And that felt so uncomfortable to me because it felt adversarial, even though I knew that it was just me saying what I think, and that I have
Mm-hmm.
every right to say what I think and have these feelings and, all of the things that surround that. And it was very liberating to finally say, here are the core convictions. This is what I believe. This is where we're going with this. I'd love for you to join us and move with us on that.
And
Yes.
what has that done for your relationship with yourself?
Oh, it's amazing. I feel so much better. I feel so much better and more in alignment. And it's so much easier. This week's blog was so much easier to write. I wrote it, I scheduled it. It's posting, it's publishing today. No qualms about anything. And we are continuing the journey around these same convictions, around these same beliefs and what I think and feel. And I don't feel last Monday, for those of you that were here, I did almost did it, but I didn't do it, Kayla.
You are not a
I was
disaster.
very uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable a week ago, right now. And today, same type of conversation happening, same types of social media posts, same types of blogs. And I'm not. I'm not concerned in the least. I feel very comfortable, very secure. I fielded a lot of calls last week. I've got a lot of bookings on my calendar to have more of these conversations. And I feel really good about it. And it's
That's
because
awesome.
I'm showing up as me. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I,
I think now that we're like talking through this a little bit more, I think what you can kind of boil this challenge down to is if you're somebody who tends to focus on the internal dissonance or the external dissonance. And that's where I think you and I tend to differ. So for me, I am very cued into my sense of self and my intuitive knowledge and choice. And then thereby it is I'm more comfortable with making choices that are going to keep my internal alignment in place with regardless of the impacts on the outside world. Not like I do things not thinking about other people, but other people's thoughts and opinions about my action weigh very little in my mind, which I think is unusual. But
world it
I
is,
think
but
I think you, like most people, had that external world sometimes can weigh more
yes,
than your internal alignment.
yes, yeah. Which I am working on. Like this is, and not just in advocacy, but in life. Because here's what I can tell you, um, is that internal alignment and that internal dissonance is much more destructive to me
Mm-hmm.
than anything externally could ever be.
Mm-hmm.
And that is me doing a paradigm shift in my own thinking, right? Overcoming that, because that is the truth. because internal dissonance affects me 24/7 in every thought, in every
Mm-hmm.
emotion, in every situation, because what it literally is, it is me sacrificing myself for others over and over and over and over again. And that is not healthy and
Mm-mm.
it's not good for me. Um,
No, and
so,
it doesn't create, because then, like, it goes back to this concept of like our thoughts dictate our beliefs dictate our actions dictate our
yes.
habits, and our habits dictate our life. So all
Mm,
of that, when your initial operating place is from a point of preserving external relationships around you and betraying yourself, that creates a life of
mm.
not fulfillment.
Right, right. It really does. And it will eat away. I love. Okay, so there's some comments in the chat that I really want to share. First of all, Cheryl says, "Knowing your why is what drives every minute of the day," and I could not agree more. And getting in touch with that why is when we talk about it in regards to advocacy, I want to say that the core convictions that I linked to, that is a strategic guide that will help you identify where you are with these 7 core convictions so that you can know if these are applicable to you in your life. Do you believe these around your advocacy practice? It's not just the core convictions, it's a workbook, it's a guide that will help walk you through to identify if you're our people, quite frankly, right? If you're the people that are working independently and believe the same things that we believe around independent advocacy. And then Cindy says, let them. Mel Robbins, read the book. I adore her. I think that this is an amazing book. Maybe we should. I know we spin the wheel for the book club, but I'm thinking maybe we should do this one. I feel like it might be a good one to do a book study, not just a book club, but maybe a book study on for this very reason. Have you read that one, Kayla? Mel Robbins,
No,
Let
but I've
Them?
heard about it
Okay.
before, and I know I need to
Yeah.
get it on my list. So
Hmm.
pulling it
Yeah.
up right now.
Good. Yeah, it's a good one. I feel like I read it earlier this year, and I feel like it might be a rotational book for me, just like Atomic Habits. I read once a year.
Hmm.
This might be something I put in my rotation to read regularly. Mainly because, like I said, I need constant reminders and constant help to stay in alignment. And just
Yeah.
let them.
And
You
I
know.
think
So
also on this topic, it's, we're talking about how good it makes your soul feel to operate in that place of full unapologetic authenticity and alignment. And that's very true. And at the same time, everything comes with a cost, right? So,
right.
especially if you're somebody that this kind of thing is new for you, there is a social expense. Now, I would say it's one worth paying, because it's kind of like pruning the garden. You pull out the weeds so the flowers can flourish. If you were a gardener and you were focused on growth, period, you would let the weeds, you would let the flowers, and just let it be, and like you'd get some things that are pretty, but your flowers would never reach their full potential because they're being outcompeted. And I really believe that it's the same thing socially and energetically with the people in your life.
Yes.
The less that you're in your full self, and the more that you're prioritizing all of those external relationships without necessarily qualifying them,
Right.
then none of those connections are really going to develop. I mean, sometimes things happen, but speaking generally, they're not going to develop to
Right.
their full potential, because those people who could be your beautiful flowers in your relationship garden, they don't have that opportunity because they don't get to see the true full
Right.
version of you.
I
So
love
not only are you out of alignment with yourself, but even from that social standpoint, you're kind of cheating yourself out of what could be because of the short-term cost of pruning the garden, and now there's not much left.
right. Yes, yes. It's interesting because as you were talking about the garden, I was actually thinking about harvest because this is how deep. Well, here, but I just want to share with people just how deep this can go for some of us. So I have a beautiful bowl of lettuce that I planted. It has multiple uh, lettuce plants, different varieties in it, on my deck, and I've been eating off of it. And lettuce replenishes. So anyway, so it's almost time for me to reharvest. And literally, I'm not kidding. Yesterday, I looked at it and I said, "Oh, I need to harvest that tomorrow morning." And this morning I got up and thought, oh, but it's so pretty. I don't want to harvest it yet because when I harvest it, it goes back to just being mostly soil and these just little tiny sprigs of green. And as you were talking, I was like, you got to harvest it or it's going to bolt and you'll be all
Mm-hmm.
done and it will be
Mm-hmm.
ugly and it will be all finished and you'll have to get rid of it. And so it can happen not just with weeds, but I'm just saying, like, even with the beautiful produce and the fruit that we're growing and that we're reaping, right? Is, if we don't pick it, it's going to go bad.
Mm.
And, so I think that I love all of this. I do want to get to one other thing that I had put on here, and it has to do with burnout because this well-being for our own well-being, we have to be in alignment with who we really are. It's the only way to be sustainable at anything because
Mm-hmm.
pretending to be something that we're not, even at the micro level,
It doesn't
right?
even make sense.
Right? It's not sustainable, right? Like how long do you think that's going to work before you get resentful and angry and ugly and like all of those things, right? But then on top of that, I also put down here comparison is the quickest trip to burnout as well. So this
Mm.
whole idea of comparing ourselves to other people, like if you want to burn out really quickly or if you want to be not sustainable, try and do something the exact same way that somebody else has done it. It's like the quickest way to lose momentum is to try and do it the exact same way as somebody else. Because I think we all, especially when we're starting businesses, we all want to like, I want to cut the learning curve and I want to like do it just like her because it worked for her. But the reality is that we are all individuals and we are all
Mm-hmm.
different and we all have unique personalities. And what works for each of us isn't necessarily going to work for everybody. That's why no matter how hard I try to share with new advocates, there is a trial and error period that you're going to have to go through in order to find what works for you. There's
Yeah.
lots of things
It
that work.
it worked for her because it was her.
Yes, exactly. Or him or whatever. Yes.
Yeah.
And and it doesn't mean not to try it, right? Because trying that, putting your own flavor on it, seeing if it will work for you is important because things that
Mm-hmm.
have worked for other people do have a propensity to perhaps work for us too. Just understand that it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to look a little different. It's going to
This is
feel a
not
little
copy
different.
and paste. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly. Thank you very much. It's not copy
Yes.
and paste. It's copy and tweak and try and see what happens, right? There's a whole method on that. I'm just going to say there's a whole method on that. I can't think of what it's called, but it's like you copy it exactly the way and then tweak from there.
Mm-hmm.
Just understand you're gonna have to tweak. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
not, and that's because we're all unique in how we do things and our personalities and the way we do business and all of those things.
And our
But
gifts like that. I feel
right,
like that's the whole one. I mean, for me, that's one of the big attractions to entrepreneurship for me is like this business that I've created is literally an extension of my innate
Yeah.
gifts. And that's so freaking cool. Like I get to be so like in my soul's purpose.
Right?
Which is not going to be the same as anybody else's.
Yes. That's right. And it's not supposed to be, right? I mean, that's why we're all given anyway, I
Takes all
love
kinds of
this.
kinds.
It does, it does, it does. And I love it. I think that it's just scary, I think, is what happens, right?
Yeah, I mean we are social creatures and we are wired to prioritize that social acceptance. And if you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, when our brains were actually developing, we were very reliant upon the rest of the tribe, literally to survive. So
Yes.
I would say that the stakes were higher then for the need to conform and to be accepted. Otherwise, you might not get your share of the meal. Fortunately,
Right?
I don't, that's not quite as true today. Of course, there's still some truth to it, and like temper and know when to turn on certain things about yourself. Of course, the right setting with the right places. Like those people who were all flagrant with their colorful language aren't going to show up at a church and do that. Like that's not.
Right. Yeah. No.
So like,
They were
have some
very
wisdom around
respectful. Yes.
it.
Right. Yes. And like I said, I wish I could remember the name of the company because it was such a refreshing little YouTube video to watch. Very inspiring, to be who you are, to put it all out there. And again, with respect, they understood it was their marketing. It was the way that they were presenting
Mm-hmm.
themselves. Um, I love it. I think that um, there's just no better way to be. I mean, really, again, today, this is kind of a sad thing, but, we're traveling for a family funeral and things are bad. And at the same time, I am so grateful because I've built this business around me. And there is no shame in me sending out messages last night and today saying, canceling this. We've had a death in the family. We'll get back to you. And because I know that the people in my world are aligned with me.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not, then they're not my people.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that needs to be flushed out. I don't know. But, you know, I love the continuity of be yourself all the time, especially in your business, because it is your competitive advantage when it comes to your business specifically. It's also your advantage in your personal life. I mean, it just makes everything easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes it easier to be able to call a friend and say, hey, we're going to be in Louisville this weekend. Can we crash at your house? Because they're probably going to say yes, because there are people. And,
Mm-hmm.
that's how that is. So I love that. I love the reminder not to compare myself to others. That's really hard too. And I think that um especially nowadays with the scrolling, like that's super hard because things look one way when you're scrolling through the internet. And there's a phrase somebody once said to me, don't compare your insides to other people's outsides. And
Yeah.
I was like, kind of like that, right? So we're running out of time. I love this one. I love being able to chat around, being in alignment with who we are. Like I said, go grab those 7 core convictions of independent patient advocacy. See where you are in your advocacy journey. See what you believe around. I mean, my challenge this week really is for each of us to really think about what makes our advocacy practice uniquely ours, um, and find a little bit, not just your why, because I think your why is important, but like how deep does your why run, and what are the core convictions that are driving you every day?
Mm-hmm.
Because whether
And
we're aware of them, yeah.
the next piece, pull it into your marketing.
Yes. Yes, that's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And do so with intentionality, knowing that when you do that, the right people are going to show up. So I love it. Kayla, what are you? Well, you said the marketing stuff. Is there anything that we
Mhm.
missed? Let's see. What did I put in my notes here? I
I
want to
just
hear
want to
from you.
sum it up with the feelings of isolation from those who weren't a good fit on the external world when you are being yourself more authentically will never outweigh the feeling of internal isolation when you're dealing with cognitive dissonance of not operating in alignment. I know
Oh my
that to
gosh.
be
Yes.
true. And if that sounds off to you, then I challenge you to lean more into it.
Me too. All right. Well, you've got some great stuff to work on this week, everyone. I look forward to hearing about what makes your practice uniquely you. And from I guess Wednesday, we're going to be talking about the revenue reality check for independent versus system navigation.
Mm.
And so show up Wednesday for our call. And then we'll be back here Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern to talk about what are we talking about next week? I don't know. Ego versus intuition. And I think we have an amazing, I think we have a really good quote for next week. I got a sneak peek of it this morning. So
Okay.
hope to see you there. Bye, guys. Have a great week.